Hi guys, welcome to another weekly mash. This week we visited with Ian at Black Sands Brewing.
Well, you visited?
Oh, I visited, yeah.
I was working again.
You really need to make some time to go out more.
Yeah, but I'm always working.
Anyways, we chatted with Ian, lovely guy, lovely beers, and he went through all the don'ts in brewing, which was really educational and really
useful.
Yeah.
Good videos.
Yeah.
See what he has to say.
Hi guys, welcome to another exciting weekly mash. Here we are with Ian from Black Sands Brewing, and he will be running through the don'ts this week, the do-nots. And hi Ian, thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
Thank you for my lovely present.
Your fresh hop
flower. It smells amazing.
It's a sort of not a wild hop, but it's an old hop that's been in New Zealand for many years.
Okay.
It's descended from the German hop, and it has a real nice sort of floral citrus smell to it.
It's beautiful.
We don't really use it in the brewery on a regular basis. We only got 2 small plants. So.
And is it easy to quite maintain this?
Gee, they're very easy to grow, and they grow really quickly. Literally grows like, in growing season, a foot a day.
Wow.
It's amazing.
That is awesome.
It's a nice decorative plant to have in your garden as well.
It is beautiful. I would like these type of plants and flowers, because I'm not really good with the whole gardening thing, so this will be amazing. So can you talk to us about the don'ts with hops?
I think the don'ts with hops are pretty straightforward. Generally, don't use fresh hops because they're quite hard to get repeatability. Every time you use fresh hops, they're a little bit different. If you get your pelletized hops, they are very consistent, and so you can brew a consistent beer that way. It's nice to throw in a few fresh hops at the end for a bit of aroma, but really, particularly for bittering, it's really hard to judge it correctly using fresh hops.
Fresh hops, okay.
And the pelletized hops we get here in New Zealand are always great. They're always fresh. There's no reason not to use them.
Awesome. Cool. And so here we're at the mill. Talk to us about the don'ts.
Okay, so the milling is a really important process because you're taking the little seeds, the malt seeds, and crushing them up, or milling them up. And I think that's where your first problem can start, if you mill incorrectly. A lot of people mill too fine.
Yes.
So if you crunch it all up into little bits, you almost get a flour.
Yes.
And that's going to cause you a lot of problems. You'll get a stuck mash. It all kind of glues together in the mash tun.
Yeah.
If you go the other way and you don't mill enough, in other words, the rollers on your mill are too widely set, the kernels of malt will just fall straight through, and you won't get a crush at all. So it's really important. It depends on the mill. It's really important to get the setting correct and to get your crush correct. Most home brewers will have their milling done by the homebrew shop, but even then, that's no guarantee it'll be done correctly, because they're also human. And you find over time, while you're using the mill, the rollers will slowly, over a period of months perhaps, move apart. And perhaps the first you'll notice is suddenly your efficiencies go down because you're not extracting the sugars that you should, because you haven't milled the grain enough. So the very first thing is, don't get your milling wrong, because otherwise you're going to get stuck mash or very bad efficiencies.
So you guys are ready to get the milling done?
We are. We'll wait till everything else is ready to go, because we like to mill just before we brew. Obviously, it's once you've milled the malt, it's exposing all the material to oxygen, and it starts to deteriorate. Obviously, it's better to mill just before you use it, but if you don't have a proper mill, it's perfectly acceptable to get it milled the day before. It's rather do that than try and run it through an old pasta making machine or coffee grinder at home, because that's just not going to work.
Cool. So Ian, any tips on what not to do while mashing?
Okay, the first thing we've covered getting the correct grind.
Yep.
That's really important for your mill. The second thing is getting the correct temperature for your mash.
Okay.
Again, that's going to rely on having a very accurate thermometer, or at least knowing the error of your thermometer so you can adjust it. Just a degree difference in your mashing temperature is going to make a different beer.
Okay.
While you're actually mashing, the two things you should be careful when you mash in dough in, when you're stirring it all up, make sure you don't get dough balls. Sometimes these are dry lumps of milled grain, often just below the surface of the mash, and obviously if they don't get wet, you're not going to get any sugars out of those.
Yeah.
So make sure it's stirred in really well. The second thing is when you're running off, don't be in a hurry to run your wort off. Go very slowly, assuming that you're fly sparging. Make sure you always cover the grain bed with water.
Okay.
Keep the water at the right temperature, about 72 to 75 degrees. And run off slowly. We take about an hour and a half to run off. And that's just for 600 litres. You can go faster, but all you're going to do is get poorer extraction and possibly not extract quite the right profile of sugars. So definitely don't be in a hurry running off. That's the time where you probably the slowest process in brewing. Run off very slowly.
Yeah, and get all those sugars out.
Get all those sugars out.
And so Ian, temperature is very important in brewing.
It is. It's really critical. And so another don't in brewing is don't trust your thermometer unless you've checked it. Here I've got 3 different thermometers. Some of them quite expensive.
How much would they range price-wise?
About $400 for a good professional one.
Yeah.
$10 for a cheap homebrew thermometer.
Yeah.
And $100 for something in between.
Yeah.
It really is worth spending the money on a good thermometer because they can be anything from 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees out.
Wow.
And
that's huge.
It's huge, and 1 or 2 degrees makes a dramatic difference to your beer.
Yeah.
So definitely don't trust your one thermometer. Get a couple, try and get a good quality one, and go and test them out. Put 4 thermometers in the same bowl of water and see what they read.
Yeah.
You'll soon find out which are the accurate ones.
Okay.
Don't fail to clean your kettle. Before you boil, people say, look, the boil itself will kill any bugs. That's true, but it'll do nothing for any off flavors or contamination you've got from having a dirty kettle. So I reckon you should clean your kettle very well prior to every single boil. In terms of the actual boil, you really need a vigorous, rapid rolling boil.
Yeah.
And sometimes, for example, we use 3-phase electricity here, and over time some of the elements failed, but we didn't realise that because they still worked, but they weren't working on all 3 phases, so they were just not as hot, and the boil just kind of got weaker and weaker and weaker, and that's not going to do your beer any good.
Yeah, you need to get rid of those.
You need to get rid of all those volatiles, boil it rapidly. So yes, I would say that's the main thing with the kettle. Make sure that you boil for long enough as well. Particularly if you're doing something like a Pilsner or a very light beer with not a lot of flavour or not a lot of dark malts, then you really want to boil off all the DMS and those kind of...
the vegetable flavours.
Yeah.
Cool. So you make this great beer and you can't remember how you got there. How do we not end up there?
I think that's a really important thing for everybody, whether you're a home brewer or a commercial brewer. Don't fail to write everything down. In our case, we have a brew book, and we've done this as home brewers and as commercial brewers as well. And we write everything down that we do for each batch. Any variation, anything that's different, anything that's out of the ordinary. If something happens, power failure or the hot water stops working, anything, we write it down because that will have an influence on the beer. And it's quite difficult when you, perhaps 3-4 months down the line, you're trying to remember what you did. If you haven't written it down, you ain't going to remember it. So
and it's all about repeatability.
Absolutely. You can then, without that information, you don't know what you did. You can't repeat those those processes. So don't forget to write it down.
Thank you so much, Ian.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for coming. And I think just one last thing to say. I've said all these don'ts about brewing. I don't want your viewers to think that it's a difficult thing. Brewing is not difficult to do. There's so much information out there, and there are so many people who are knowledgeable and prepared to help you. And it's a wonderful hobby to have. So don't be put off it by the don'ts and the difficulties. It's simple. If you can read a recipe, you can bake a cake or boil an egg, you can brew a beer.
And you started in school?
I started brewing at school, yes, which was a few years ago.
A few years ago,
brewing pineapple beer.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And then now you've got
now doing this, brewing the sort of beer that I like to drink myself, really.
That is awesome.
If you can't sell it, you can drink it yourself.
It's a win-win situation.
Perfect, a win-win. Yeah.
That is awesome. So yeah, if you guys are on the line, it's Black Sands Brewing. Amazing beers are being produced here. I love your beers. And if you've got any questions, we're here to help. Just give us an email or give us a call and we can answer any questions.
Yeah, so what a great video again, and real nice to see the hops like that all fresh.
Yeah, it was amazing. It smelled amazing.
Yeah, and
definitely.
Good. We need some for the office here.
Exactly.
So, yeah, good to see the don'ts that you should do. Again, we've gone over this so many times, but it's good coming from him as well. The very first thing, pretty much, your grain crush. You know, doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter what system you're brewing on, really. If your grains aren't crushed properly, you're gonna have a bad day. So pay attention to that. Make sure it's good crush. Like he said, most people over crush.
You can always, if you're unsure, just check with the brew store.
Yeah, check with, and we've got a bunch of videos already now where we show the grains. And tell the brew store you want it crushed this certain way. Maybe let them crush like only a little bit. Have a look at it, and then say, if it's over crushed, tell them no, this isn't going to work. So
exactly, because it's your beer.
Yeah, exactly. So you want it to be good. So yeah, great.
So that was really cool. And MK, you're off again.
Yep. I'm off on Friday.
Oh, that's awesome. Where are you going?
To South Africa.
Oh, cool. How long are you going?
Just 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So,
cool. So you're going to miss the cricket here? Watching it here?
Yeah, I'll miss the vibe here, but it's almost the final, so I'll go to South Africa and just rub it in their faces that New Zealand won. So.
Cool.
That's alright. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll have a fun time.
Yeah, no, I'll see how the beer scene's over there, the craft beer and everything.
Yeah, apparently it's really big in South Africa.
Yeah, no, it's taking off a lot, so got some grandfathers over there and some users watching this video. Sorry about the cricket.
Yeah, don't ignore him. I was supporting for...
I was just supporting whoever won.
Yeah.
So cheers.
Cheers guys, bye.
Thank you.